Program Engineering Manager on the Stafford Area Improvement Program and various engineering roles on West Coast route modernization with an early career in nuclear power as well. Fantastic. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much, Mona.
Good. Thank you.
And thanks to Peter. Am I on? Can you hear me? Can you hear the back? Yeah, sweet. Well, thanks to the PWI for inviting me. I'm just going to put the timer on. What's that?
Mic, test the mic.
Testing. That's better. Good. Right. Thanks to the PWI for inviting me. What a great venue. Bit of a spoiler, I haven't got any slides from Porsche, so mine aren't going to be quite as flash. But we have got TransPennine. So I think this is something we should all be excited about, because this is happening right now, right here, right now, on our doorstep. And in what I think are quite difficult times for the country, we've got 11 billion quid to spend between Manchester, Leeds and York, linking, some of our biggest and best conurbations right on our doorstep. So hopefully I can convey some of that excitement and you can buy into it. Does this work? Hopefully. Yeah, I'm slightly relieved they're not planning to build Disneyland in Huddersfield, but I'm sure it was on the list. So one of the things as engineers aren't often good at is thinking about the customer first. We like to get into the solutions, don't we? So I thought about put this slide up first, which really just tries to illustrate why we're here and what we're trying to do it for, rather than diving straight into scope. So you can sort of read the slides. What's the key points? Journey time's coming down by 10 minutes between Manchester and Leeds and 14 minutes between Manchester and York. Electrification end to end. Yes, we had a slightly bonkers period when it wasn't going to be end to end, but I'm relieved to say it definitely is. New trains for both NTL and TP fleets. So you can sort of read the rest. It's all super important. Hopefully you get the gist. So now the engineering bit. So this is the map of the route in a sort of schematic form. It tactically avoids having specific timelines, because some of the program is very much in full bore delivery, some of it's in development, so it's a bit of a mugs game trying to put time scales up there, and so that's not unintentional. So what sits behind this, and how do we deliver those customer outputs? So as I said, new fleets for TP and NTL, widespread line speed increases, renewals and capacity remodelling. Electrification, W12 gauging for freight, so Staley Bridge and Scout tunnels. I've got a slide on that later, but if we're going to get big freight containers through them, we've got a lot of work to do. Widespread station upgrades and renewals. And along there you can see, does this point maybe? You can see the key output delivery, so a key plank of the strategy of a major program, if you've seen it elsewhere, is often to have key outputs. So rather than just turning up and saying, don't worry, we'll give you something useful in 10 years, we've got a key output strategy. So key output one was Manchester to Staley Bridge, electrification, remodelling, line speed increases, and that's, I'm pleased to say, done and dusted. Key output two, sorry, that key output one, as you can read, is diversionary routes. So that's actually making sure that when you're disrupting the route, diversionary services are performing as well as they possibly can be. So that was done before Manchester Victoria to Staley Bridge, and then York to Church Fenton. So that's, if you've been through there recently, the electrification is up. Test trains have been running in the last week or two. I think the last test train run is on Thursday. The line speed increase is already commissioned through there. So come July, August, we're expecting to declare that complete, and that's over a year early, which would be really good. So we're certainly not counting our chickens, but we like to think things are going okay at the moment. And here's some of the sort of eye-watering numbers. So that 840 million, that's this year. So we are in peak construction. So we're, it was only a couple of years ago where we were still arguably prevaricating about what the programme was going to look like, but we're very much committed now. As you can see, the government's, the cheques are written for 2/3 of the cost. So we ain't going back, I think is the headline from that. And this is a brief video which I think shows some of the work that's going on. I think there's some music if this works, but I'll try and talk over it. This I think was well, there's all sorts. Yeah, this is a structure that went in over Christmas, which was, so look carefully at the top of the screen, there's a house, and that's Boxing Day or Christmas Day. So that's what that was. Yeah, so that house had a bridge deck going past their bedroom windows on Boxing Day, and but they were told in advance. So but yeah, it just demonstrates some of the scale of what we're doing. That's, you know, just one intervention. This is Huddersfield Station, where we are renewing the roof in the midst of a Grade 1 listed structure, which is quite a headache, but is, again, well on. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later. This is the grade separation at Ravensthorpe and Huddersfield. Oh, there we go. So, some of the previous presentations were talking about digital engineering, and well, BIM is sort of BAU now, isn't it? This is not something to sort of shout about, but you can see it's nice to see the visualization and then the reality. The visualization is the finished job, and the reality, bottom left, shows that we're well on, and that was sort of middle of winter. The piers for the Baker Viaduct are now out of the ground, so that's good news. But this is a real challenge this year. This is absolutely pivotal. If we don't get this in the grounds, then effectively the construction access windows for TRU are like a stack of dominoes. So we've done our best to de-risk that, but nonetheless, they do sit on the back of each other, and if one falls over, then we're going to be on a sticky wicket. So that's that. And this on the left is Huddersfield Station. So on the face of it, it just looks like a sort of station roof renewal, which it is, but alongside that, we're remodeling the layout at Huddersfield to completely change the method of operation. So we've got stage G coming in August, September, which will simplify the layout back to a one track either way for an interim phase, which will allow us to then go in and completely remodel the rest of the station, ready for a final configuration state. How am I doing on timing? Who's telling me about timing? 10 minutes left. Okay. So one of the themes today is innovation. So I just wanted to touch on sort of what have we done to put ourselves in a good place on this. So we first of all looked at other major programs and how they've done innovation. The crux of that really was that put some dedicated leadership in place, give yourself some focus. So we've got safety, carbon, productivity, get your teams working together, have good process, make sure you're exchanging ideas between your teams and with externally, create the right environment basically for innovation to thrive. And that's what we've tried to do. Here's just a few of the things that we've brought into reality. So Checkpoint top left is certainly worth a mention. So that is a very simple app. So those of you that know how work gets done on the railway will recognise the fact that on a normal night you'll have an engineering supervisor granting access to numerous COSs, often 20 or 30 on a big complex programme, and they'll be literally phoning around those people, and that process can take 20, 30 minutes, and that's lost productivity. Checkpoint app is something you set up ahead of the possession. Once the ES has got authority to grant access, he clicks a button and simultaneously everybody gets the go signal. And so, you know, in one fell swoop, that's 20, 30 minutes saved, and that's improved productivity. So a great thing, we've helped the SME that developed that through the safety approvals process. that can be a challenge, and that's been a great success, and is now looking at national rollout. So we're really proud of that. The video that's going bottom right is a GPR system on the end of a machine, and that's potentially going to be used on the tunnels where we're needing to work to try and make sure that we understand the strata behind the tunnel lining, whether there are any voids, what the material's like behind there. So we're expecting to pilot that pretty soon. So I'll skip on in view of time, but suffice to say, we're really trying to create that environment where innovation can thrive. I thought this was an interesting one to throw in for civil engineers in the room. So you'll be well aware that the footprint that we're running through has got a legacy of coal mining particularly, but mining in general works. So if you look at the mining maps, you sort of scratch your head and think, how are you ever going to build anything through here? Because if you apply regular codes of practice for working in these areas, and you look at the depth of mine workings, you are in danger of filling most of Yorkshire, or this bit of Yorkshire, with grout, sort of probe and grouting schemes. So we had to think of something different, because this was potentially going to floor the scheme before it even started. So CSM is a thing that some of you will be familiar with, and that gives you 2 or 3 different options as to how you address this. You can apply the code of practice, the standard applicable at the time, and as I said, that wasn't necessarily viable. Or you can do an explicit risk estimation, which is a probabilistic approach. You look at what the real level of risk is, and I think all of us would say, yes, there's coal mining, but trains don't fall in coal mines very regularly. There are certainly signs of risks and issues, but it's not causing widespread injuries or fatalities. So you basically put together the probabilistic science behind that and derive the sort of sensible sums that you should be spending on the risk mitigations. And that's what we've done. Saved a lot of money. Huddersfield to mention there, saving 60%, but it's route wide. It's definitely in the tens, if not hundreds of millions saved. So a really useful thing, and that's being used elsewhere as well. How am I doing for time? 10 minutes? Yeah. Still 10 minutes. It's amazing, isn't it? This one's probably relatively old news, so for time-wise, I'll skip over it. But many of you will know about Great Western and the tight electrical clearances that they tried to resolve for themselves. They were facing real challenges with making that work on the scheme. So we've used some of the science that they undertook and that TA have then developed, and we've created a systemised approach, because TransPennine is often rural, but it crosses lots of urban areas as well. We've got lots of these brick arch bridges. So fundamentally, what we've ended up doing is applying tighter clearances, but also creating a systemised way to get a compromise between the different asset engineers, because the challenge is the electrical engineer doesn't necessarily want tight clearance on all his structures for good reason. It creates an asset risk for them. So you need to create an environment where the different assets, the track, the structures, the electrification engineers can all understand the options, can see where it's appropriate for them to compromise versus their colleagues, and vice versa. So in doing that, we've saved 22 overbridge reconstructions, £50 million, and we're content we've applied the right solution in the right places. So that's, I think, a good story. This is something we're proud of. Major programs always have to do the hard yards to deliver a good safety record, and we're no different. There's no golden bullets, but one of the real foundations we've put in place is a safety training facility in Huddersfield. So the principle is no one's going on site until they've been through this. It's a full day safety training, safety culture sort of embedment scheme. The senior leadership team, we've basically said everybody's got to go in, and one of us is going to turn up every time one of these sessions is happening, just to convey the importance to us. So I rock up here on a fairly regular basis and try and make that point. So the video brings it to life, so let it play.
way that story is brought to life through the close participation with all the members here, something that's very unique.
I think it's the reality. I was convinced that they were real. It wasn't a scenario, that was real.
Over the years I've done a few things like this, and it's probably one of the best things I've ever done. It's a real eye-opener.
The way it kind of makes you stop and think, and the consequences of family really kind of hits home, hits hard.
Really just challenges you to think and to collaborate with your teams and people you may not speak to on a day-to-day basis.
Today has been absolutely fantastic, not what I expected. Probably the best training I've actually ever been on, which is amazing.
Today has been a brilliant day, really engaging, and at 3 o'clock I'm still excited to see what's coming up next.
So hopefully that gets the message across. And we've had people are welcome to come along to that, actually, I should say. You know, 1s and 2s fine. If you want to bring big numbers, then we can work something out. But genuinely, it's worth a visit if anybody's interested. I'm going to skip a few slides now because there's a couple at the end that I really want to make sure I get to, and because they're relevant to the theme of the day, and they talk quite nicely to some of the earlier speakers. So this is mostly cottages, as you can see in the middle there. People can basically reach out their window, and if you put an OLE wire in front of them, it may not end well. So we've got a plan for an earth section through there. Fortunately, it's a downhill run that we can coast through. So we think we've got a plan, but still we've got risks. So we're going to apply that explicit risk estimation method to make sure that we apply the right precautions. This is Stalybridge Tunnel. So we are needing to dig down 1.5 meters-ish through that tunnel. That's going to undermine the tunnel lining, the walls. So we've got to be pretty careful through there, potentially hazardous. We've got a plan for, as it said, permeation grouting and ground anchors to sort of secure the structure before we start digging. So that's going to be a pretty spicy job, but the team are on with developing it, and I've just gathered they're starting to do tests for some of the approach that's proposed. So that's going to be a real thing before too long. Carbon challenge, super important. It's a shame I can't do it justice, but really it's a theme for a completely separate day, isn't it? Let alone a slide in my session. The visual is an intent because we've got a static frequency converter at Ravensthorpe. That gives us the opportunity to potentially tap in there with solar panels, which would be quite exciting. And talking of AI, the visual top right is produced by AI. So there you go. Can do all sorts of things. It didn't do the whole presentation, by the way. Another theme which deserves a whole day of its own, digital. It's part of our scope. ETCS is the final building block and is absolutely necessary for us to deliver our outputs at the end of the scheme. But we do stage towards that with conventional signalling renewals as we go. So this is a slide I really wanted to get to. So I'm talking as chief engineer for the TRU enterprise, not for the infrastructure. That's a key point, and the model that sits behind that is that I'm on the enterprise exec. Not only, I'm on the enterprise exec with the DFT, with train operators, with route ops and maintenance, as well as representing infrastructure delivery. So that is, in a way, a microcosm of what we're trying to get to with GBR, I think. And I can really say it's a refreshing environment. The challenge is to push it and make it permeate through the whole organisation, and that's where I think we've still got work to do. But genuinely, when we've got challenges at exec level, it does allow us to see through those challenges and work out what sort of best for industry solutions are. And we've done things like rebaselining the whole scheme and with a massive reshuffle of the access windows, which in some of my previous programs would have been a nightmare because the challenges with TOCs, the relationships with TOCs were not always great. But in this environment, it's an open book. They've been with us along the journey. They understand the challenges. They understand why we want to create, in this case, a more resilient plan, taking taking schedule risk from the end of the program and creating more resilience, and that worked, really well. So I can certainly say that enterprise working, or in our case, is generally a good way forward. The job's not done. We've still got work to go forward, and as I said, in terms of getting that to permeate through the organisations more widely, but I can certainly promote the benefits. Finally, the sustainability and social value piece is certainly probably a nice way to finish. We're really conscious that we don't just want to rock up and build a nice railway for the customers and rock away again. It's a massive opportunity to make a difference to the next generation, to invest in skills, to get our community engaged in what we're doing. So you can see some of the stats there, things we're really proud of. This has been like pushing on an open door. We have performance reviews with, lots going on. But when we get to the sustainability and social value, it's really self-fulfilling. It's got an engine of its own. So you can see there, we're doing really well against targets. You can see the numbers for yourself. There's all sorts of things to be proud of. Apprentices, 346 so far. Lots spent with local businesses. Children engaging with STEAM, obviously a passion of a lot of people in the room. So that's I think all really positive. So that's a minute late, not too bad. So that's it for me. Thank you for listening. I hope that's been a decent session pre-lunch, and I hope you're excited as we are to be seeing TRU happening on your doorstep.
Thank you.